load sa mga repositories. Pila ka minutes.
Dali raman ako, sir.
Kusog ka internet, no?
Wa may uwan.
Hinili ko karon nadugay kinahuman dos. So anyway, while nag-download na siya, ang akong planong buhaton is ari sa left side, ay pa mag-upload good coding. Drawing. And by the way, I'll be using a plugin, a library called Axios to read, to send request and receive response to the API. So, if this is our page, and on the side here, this particular side will be putting all the titles. So, ari butang mga titles. Yan na. Mga titles na. And then when you click on the title, it will just show the title here. And then the contents here. Ito na. Basta you get the idea. Yan na, sa. So, Aldre kilid, but ni-click, magawas ang blog ni mo dire. Yan na lang. Ayan, man na. So, I go to CD My Blog, and I do code that to open it up in my Visual Studio Code Editor. And when we run this, let's take one, npm run serve. Serve ba ito, no? And we have our development server right there. And if we go open our browser, go to localhost 8080, and there goes our application. So I'm going to change that. Inside of our SRC, we have our app here, which calls on or imports our Hello World component. And there's the Hello World component. And this Hello World component contains that kind of data. And that is being rendered here, just below the logo. We're gonna change all this. So I'm gonna remove this thing here. And see. Let's first, maybe we need to ano ba ka ni siya kuan? I'm gonna be removing the styles pod niya kay yayahan man ang pagbuot ng styling. And so we'll add a component na nun. So the app component is where we are going to will be our main page. So therefore we are going to put this in may magbutang na lang tagkuan, Bootstrap, no? So let's include Bootstrap in our index HTML. Let's go. So here's the Bootstrap CSS. This guy. Put it right here. We also need the JS. This guy is here. And then put it right down here. So we got Bootstrap in our code. BigQuery, Popper, Bootstrap, right? Got Bootstrap now. And so we can do bahinon man nato. We'll have we'll have a row. And in that row, and first here will be Siguro mga 4 columns to the left. We'll have that call MD4. This will be for our list of titles. So we'll have titles. Then after that, we'll have 8 columns left para sa ato ang content. So this part will be um, hmm, ato nang ilain og laing component nga mo display sa tibuok tibuok blog later. So unahon sa nato ning list of titles right here. So I won't be importing this anymore. So for now, well, di na gyud kay we'll create a new component naman later. So first thing atong kinahanglanon would be to grab the data and display all the titles here. So before we can do that, we need to add a new item into our a new plugin or library into our project, and that is the Axios library. So I'm going to open up terminal, create a new one, and execute the command here to install the Axios library. And it's very simple. You simply say npm install Axios. Just like that. And it will download, of course, the repository of Axios na ko'y vulnerabilities. Mag-fix daw sa npm audit. Okay. 108 vulnerabilities yapon. Balulog ang fix. Anyway, so now if we look at our package JSON na natadiri sa ato ang dependencies Axios. So now we can use Axios into our app. All right. Now here, in our script here, we're gonna import Axios. So import Axios from Axios. Like that. And inside of our script here in our export default, we can now use Axios. So the way we can do that is we create a method. Right now, wala tayong methods nga property. So do methods here. And inside of methods, we're going to create a method that is going to do the grabbing of the data from JSON placeholder. So we'll just call this get posts. Okay. And this get posts is an asynchronous call. Remember, it should be an asynchronous call. It's meaning it should start on when it's called, but will not stop the execution of the other parts of the program. It should be running in its own time, in its own stream of execution. So we can do this by putting the async keyword, and then somewhere inside of an async method, there should be an await call. And muna siya ang part niya mo ay paabuton ba nga mag-usap pang padayon siya sa iyahang part. And that part nga mo ay paabuton nimo is the Axios call. Katong paggamit na to sa Axios to issue the request to the JSON placeholder, which by the way nakalimot ko kuha sa kining iyahang endpoint. Ito nang kopyahon ng endpoint dire. Mamani ang endpoint. Just copy this. So here, we're gonna execute the Axios call. Simply say Axios dot, and then followed by the type of request. This particular request, as you have seen, na-able na to using sa browser dito sa URL, meaning it's just a get request. Say get. And then inside of the get request, as you can see here, URL lang. Kung sa pay configuration na kinang ipasa na. But in this case, wala tayo kinanglan ipasa configuration, just the URL. And then we'll simply say then. And here is where we put our execution. of what should be done after the response comes back. So that response, we have to assign it into a variable. So we'll call this, of course, response. And based on that variable response, we are going to execute this block of code. Okay, ang pasabot na, this response variable will receive the response of this get call. And once that is done, this part of the code will be executed. And this block of code will now have access to the response uh, object. And this is where we put the await here. So what should we do with our response? All we have to do is get the data out of the response and store it somewhere. Of course, this is a view application, and so we store our data, our working data inside of the asa man. Asa ta magbutang data? Sa data nga property. So data property is of course a function that returns an object. So here is where we declare our data. So what should we call our data? This is posts, and we'll just initialize it as an empty array, because as you see, this results into an array. If you look at the raw data, the starting is an opening square bracket, which means this whole thing is an array. Look at the end. That's the closing square bracket, and each of one of them is inside of a curly bracket, meaning this is an object. So this is an array of objects, right? So we initialize it as an array. And once we get the response, we simply assign the data coming from the response to our post. But we need to check if okay ba ang ato ang response, kay basin dayo down ba ron ang server, wala ba kay internet. So but we can simply check the status of the response. We say if response.status, if it's equal to 200, that's the status code for an okay response, successful get request. If that's the case, then we can assign this.posts equal to the response.data. And therefore now let's just console log our is.post in this case. Of course, this method get post will not be executed. This is a method, diba? Which means you have to invoke it somewhere. But in this particular case, we want to invoke it right at the beginning. Okay? And there is a hook, lifetime hook in view application, which gets triggered that in every stage of the application. In this particular case, we want to do something when this particular application is loaded. And that hook is called created. So outside of our methods, this is the methods. So Eclipse this is our methods nga property. This is our data nga property. This is our component nga property sa atong application. Naay gitawag pod nga created. And this is just a function. This function is executed, as the name suggests, when it is created, when the object is created, or when the app is created. So right here, if we call our method, which is get posts, is that get post. We're just calling this method once the application is ready, once the application is created. Right? So basically, inig-load, tawgon ni si get post, o sige buhat ni get post, ning gamit ni Axios para mo request og dito pas dong sa JSON placeholder. And then when that when that ends, when that returns something, that something is stored into response. And if that response has a status code of 200, meaning it is successful, then we get the data of that response and store it into our post. And remember, post is part of our data of our app. And for now, ato asa lang gibutang sa console ang atong post. Tanaw na tuog na batay magdawat nga post. So, ako na i-close. We open up our application, which is on localhost 8080. And wala ning gawas. But let's take a look at our console. We have an error man tingali. Unquote, hello world is not defined. Whoosh. Haman ta nagtawag og hello world. Wala ta mag-import ni hello world. Ay, sa component nag-define tag hello world. O nagtawag tag hello world. Yawan na to nagi. Ang na to. Alright, so we have titles. Oh, and you see, you have this. And dapat akong atong gibutang is response.data man atong ipangayo, no? And right, so all right, so here's the object, and we get so many target. So here we go. Daghan naman sa response.data ibutang sa posts. Sige. Let's try daw si response.data na atong so if we refresh, kabantay mo na apay delay, gamay nga delay usa pa ning abot ang data. So here's our data, di ba? It's this object, na title, na body. All right, so we are getting our data from JSON placeholder. Remember, JSON placeholder is an API somewhere around the other side of the world, and we're getting that data from that particular server, from that API, actually. So we get now our data and stored it into posts. What should we do now? So once we have that, we can now make use of the post data that we have. And in this particular case, we'll simply enumerate across the post and display all the titles on the sidebar. And I want to show the titles in the sidebar in a form of a list items. So we're gonna do UL, and this UL has a class of list group, and inside we'll have LI, and inside of the LI is an A. Should I use an A? Okay, I'll just use an A. And this particular A has a class of list group item. Okay, so kung testingan na to sa butang sa pagkakaroon, no? This is a title. May dagway na. There you go. And di mauni siyang ato ang this should be here. So this should be our list group item, and this should be list group item active. And all these classes are found in the documentation of Bootstrap. So, and it's still not working. Maybe siguro niya siya sa LI. And there we go. Whoopsie, di hapon. List group item. List group item action. Active. There you go. All right. So, og daghan na siya, and do something like tagduhan na siya. Yan. So, yan ang dagway niya. Okay? So, that's good. But we are not going to statically write that out there. We are going to use the data from our posts and populate all the LIs here using a loop. And that loop is available in our view, no? The view looping enumerator directive, which is called v4. So we are going to v4. May v4 ano to, si posts. So every single post, we will call it a post in posts. And there should be a key, right? So colon key. And our key for this, naman tingili ID ang ato ang ano, uh, na may ID, no? Yeah, na ID, see that? So we'll use that as our keys. We'll have post.id. Right. And inside, we'll be using the interpolation to put here the title, which is post.title. Okay. And let's see our app now. And there we go. These are all our titles at the left side. And there are 100 titles here. So gusto na ito now, ngayon i-click na sa title, boom, magawas na po dire ang content. So that content has to be defined in another component. So we'll create a component now. So here we open up, and in the components we create a new file. We'll call this post.view, right? And of course we'll have a template in here. We'll have a script in here. All right. And below we'll have a style. Okay. Ito may dagway sa ato ang component dire. It's going to only have a title and then the body. Simple kayo. So, magkuhan lang taan magbutang lang taan div usa, and then we'll have an H1 na mo ay mag-display sa title here, and followed by another div which will have the contents here. Okay? Simple kayo. Yeah. Basta na siyang suwayan o butang dito sa tong app. To do that, we need to import that into our app here. So you say import, pareha ni na sa Hello World. Remember, si post o si Hello World, pareha o gibutangan. You can put here import post from, and then we have a /components/ post dot view. And of course, we go na to import, and to attach that component into this particular component. Remember, this is a component as well, and we are attaching another component to it. We just put it in the components section. Post. Now that we have that, we can put the post component right here. Diba? There is a right side sa ato ang column. So we simply say post like that. And now we should have, there you go, title here and content here. And of course, we don't want this to be shown kung wala tayo gi-select nga usa ka title. So at the start, wala pa tayo gi-select nga title, dapat dili ni siya naka-view. So we add another data here, selected post. Okay? And this will start as a null. So kung null pa siya, dapat dili ni siya makita. We can do that using VF. VF, kung dili siya, null. So if selected post is not equal to null, muna makita siya. Pero kung null, dili siya makita. So save this. Kung dili na siya makita, right? So kung dili pa ni siya null, like for example, butangan na to siya 1, dili siya null, di ba? Kita siya. We'll start with null, and when we click on one of the titles here, it should get that object and assign it into the selected post. Okay, so the selected post will no longer become null. That is an action. So we need to add that method. Okay, so inside of our methods, after the get post, this is the get post, we add a comma, and we add another method, maybe called select post method. And when we select a post, we are going to pass in a particular post. Okay, and that post will be assigned to the selected post. All we have to do is say this, that selected post is equal to post. And of course, that action has to be called. As mo na to na i-call, inig-click na to sa usa ka title. So we need to add here, uh, we'll add here at click. Dito nga sa prevent kay link man siya. The click that prevent simply means nga, inig-click nimo, dili nimo siya partiwason sa iyang usual nga trabaho. This is an A link, di ba? This is an href. Ang usual nga trabaho kay mo change man siya og page, although naka-sharper maghapon na siya, but prevent means na dili na siya mo change og page. So, we are going to call sa nga natong method select post man to, no? Yeah, select post, and we are going to pass the post. And remember, we are looping over to this post list of posts, and we get this as a single post. So we can just simply call here select post, and we pass in this particular post. Ba? Kining post nga ikuha na itong title, muna itong gipasa dito sa select post, which is stored in this parameter, which is then assigned to our selected post. Now that we have that, we can use that selected post and pass it on the post here. But this particular post here, wala pa tayo paagi para ang atuang data nga naa diri karon, the selected post, mapasa ba nato padong ni post component. Okay? Para karon. But what will happen now if we click is makita na siya. Diba? Makita na when we click. Remember, if we refresh, wala tayo selected post. When we click one, makita na siya. But siyempre, dili pa mo ang data. We are not yet able to pass this data, which is this post, into that component post. Right now, si post yung component, walay data. But we can change that, of course. The way we can pass data between component to component in Vue is through the use of so titawag ito niya yung term. Kasi na kinumdum. Uy. Kaya nakalimot ko. Natog na mo? Hapin na kumahuman. Mata sa mo. Uy.
Well, nakalimot ko to, sir.
Picture mo eh. Kalimot dito ako. Pass data to view component. Props is the key. Just define props inside of our can, and then that props becomes a attribute into the component. So we're going to define in our post props. And this props is of course another object. Actually, this is a hash because you can put a lot of things inside of here. And one thing we can do is we can put here a post. Okay, which of course will be starting with a null value. Right? And if it's not null, we are going to do something like this here. Ito sa nisod na po na yung uglaing wrapper. Pero na tayo mabutang because this particular div will serve as the ultimate container, the main container, and inside we need to have a wrapper that will have our title and content. nga mo ibutangan na to sa VF. Remember the VF? Nya rin siya magawas kung troning na sa VF. So, it should only be displayed if post is not null. So, if post is not equal to null. So, may labot na ng at diha. Alright. So, now, unsa may ibutang nato diri? Siyempre, you can now just say, post the title. Here, post the body. Body ba to? Yeah, body. Title of body. So, how do we pass post to here? Gikan sa app view, we are inside of app view ning gamit ta sa post nga component. Kanang post nga component sudlan na nato sa ato ang post, which is ang selected post. Okay? Ipasa na nato padong ni post component kasi post component kung nasa post nga property, maka-display na sa title o sa body. So how do you do that? It's simple. It becomes now a simple attribute inside of post. And that is, see that? It says there, post. And we simply assign it to this guy, selected post. Right? That's simple. So now, hope this works. Oh, there you go. We now have our title and our body. If we change this, boop, magnum patilis. This one, boop. Okay, just like that. Very simple. I think I need to do something with our sidebar here. Dapat nga na sa kahabugan, butangan na lang si Roog. Scroll, no? So, inside of app view, in the sidebar, can you see columns, the titles, can you see? We'll just give this titles nga class. Kaya maka-control ta sa iyahang style. Dot titles. Gaano na to siya og height nga. Ba na kung ibuhat, murag di. Nanglan pa ni siya na to isod og container pa. So, need to put a div here. Nga mo ay na class nga titles. Put the ULLI there. Kuha na to na siya diri. Karon kini siya may itong kontrolon. And so we give it a height of 90 ito na VH nabali 90 VH 90%. Then ang overflow niya is scroll. Ang mulapas na magawas nga scroll bar. Right, there you go. Murag dako ra si 90. 88. Yan. O, di ba? Okay, so when we click, boom, tempora remberetatis voluptas co dolores vero. And there's the body. Okay? So that ends my demonstration for this. Have any question? Will I question, guys? So I'm gonna create a repository for this code, and so that you can just grab it using Git. Okay. Let me first go on to my GitHub account to create a repo, a new repo. I'll call this repo SIA demo. SIA demo kaon, SIA demo kanta, SIA demo sugoon. SIA demo posts. Okay. Create repository. After that, we're gonna do this inside of here. Uy. Di mo sugot balulog na ko ano. Isa-isa. Right-click, enter. Next. Right-click, enter. This ako mag-push. Hit add everything. Hit commit init. And mag-init. Lagi. And then push. All right, so you can check out my code from here using SIA demo posts, Lentrix, github.com/lentrix/SIA demo posts, SIA demo post, okay, to get the code for this demo. Okay na, guys?
Sir,
Okay,
yes.
sir.
Wala na?
Time na set.
That time. Lapas na tag 2 minutes. Ay,
sige lang, sir. Sige lang, sir.
Kasagaran na ba kay sayo ta mamuhi? No? Okay, so I will adjust the assignment, but
Baka project ang i-process?
Ha?
Or
Unsa?
usbon to next?
Kato na ka-submit sa NACS, tagdi na lang to.
Kaya ko i-submit.
Naman na day ka, wa pa lang masubmit.
Oh.
And so for our final, just create a any application, any view application that is going to grab data from any API, any dummy API. Na may daghang dummy API, guys, gawas sa JSON placeholder. And even with JSON placeholder, napasilain dire gawas pa sa kuan pod. I post, I comments, I albums, photos, to-dos. Daghan pa na siya. But besides JSON placeholder, daghan. If you're going to look for dummy API. For example, we have here this one. If you open up this guy here, you'll have these endpoints. This one gives you a list of employees, and this one gives you one employee. You can even have a post to create an employee or update. So, you can also do that. Besides that, napailain po uban. There's dummy APIs here, stoplight, markup guide. Daghan pa na sila nga pwede nimong gamit-gamiton to try out and have an API request that your view can access. So you'll have an open season. Your final project will be open. Whatever application you can come up, basta kay na ay get, na ay reading of data, and na ay insertion of data. Any question? Well, I question. So that's all for this session. Thank you so much, and see you again in your summer class. By the way, kibaw na mo nga na mo summer class, no?
Yes, sir. Wala mong
Sir.
kibaw nos
Kanos sir?
Wala pa kumasayo do ganos Pero pa-enroll na lang mo kay murag na naman tingali akong subayan, ha. I can do that. Let's do that. 1 to 10. Are you saying this? So summer 2021. Systems Integration and Architecture 2, SIA 2, SIA 2 or SIA 102. Motong nanatay knocks ganihang nakita niyo. Na advanced to siya. And information security assurance, and of course your first part of your capstone project. Anita mag groupings, mag planning, initial documentation, and so on and so forth. So you have 3 courses for summer. I don't know pa. Maybe pangutanon lang niyo si Ma'am Pina o kung sa musugod. But the fact nga na siya karon sa akong load means that you are already ready. I mean, the system is now ready for your enrollment, to accept enrollment. Pwede na mo magpa-enroll. Okay? Okay, guys? Buhi pa mo?
Sir,
Yes, sir.
Okay na, sir.
Anong hilak makasay?
Capstone.
Okay raman ang capstone, good. Anyway, yung mahagbong balik lang, good.
Valide, dyan ninyo pag-graduate dahil, sir.
Pag-graduate ton, good, basta nindot ang capstone. Okay, so that's it. And again, see you again in our summer classes. Please execute leave drill. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, sir.